Well, hello, folks. I want to do this live on all the developments as of yesterday with Russia and the European Union. This is specifically two UNSC powers, well, three with Russia, but it's specifically France and UK and the significance of such and what we all have to know going forward. A lot of people dismissing it as not a big deal or saber rattling or not credible, real, and in our face right now. And I want to do this live because that's just not the case. And it starts with history. It isn't in the Western narrative, hasn't been in the Western narrative for more than 100 years. 110, 104 year period there of history that I think Westerners need to know. There was an interview with Vladimir Putin and Tucker Carlson where Vladimir Putin gave a tremendous amount of history. I'm going to go back through that as I completed all Russian translation on my own, using the words and then transcribing the words spoken in Russian to get it out into English, not relying on Tucker Carlson's translation, as there were some serious mistakes, some key things missing, and I'm going to fill everybody in on those blanks. And that starts ultimately with 1913 and where Russia was, where Ukraine was, where Europe was. That starts with kingdoms. Folks, there's no Soviet Union. There's no communism at that time. Now, the roots of such, the Bolsheviks, is growing in this period, but it's not there. We haven't hit the Russian Revolution as the U.S. almost 150 years before that had hit in the War of Independence against the British Empire, another kingdom. And in 1913, the Russian Empire, under a monarchy, reigned supreme. The boundaries were very, very different. Ukraine at that time was very, very different. In fact, it was part of Russian history of all its 1,000 years. Ukraine, part of the Russian Empire in the monarchy. Ukraine, part of Russia. In fact, history before that, Kiev, before Moscow, was the capital of Russia. Reality, truth, undeniable. Folks, in this period from 1913, as we progress, there are major wars, including, as you all know, World War I. Well, in fact, the Russian Federation was produced in that period falling of the monarchy in the Russian War of Independence. Ukraine had an independence war too. USA is allied there, fighting Bolsheviks during the revolution, because that's where the birth of communism was. And for a large period, folks, going after that, you see this independent Ukraine divided in three ways. Russian Federation, its oblasts, you can go look at the map. Real, credible, verifiable. There's the Polish Empire and its claim and stake on Ukraine. And then you can go south and see the rest of it. Of course, Romanian Empire, all of that are there. European history as it really is. Russian Federation fell in 1921. They lost, even with the Allies' support of USA. Russian Federation, United States of America versus communism. And they lost. They lost. Ukraine lost its independence too. And this is communism, not Russian Federation as it is today under Vladimir Putin, What claims is Vladimir Putin putting forward? Deals made post-1991, fall of Soviet Union. USA fully embraced the Russian Federation. Bring it forward. Russian Federation wanted the clock rolled back to the time of the Russian Federation with its ally USA. Go look and read clear history. Vladimir Putin nailed it all with Tucker Carlson. If you took the time to properly translate, you'd find that he accurately goes through all of this. USA friend, USA supposed to be in support of this. And then some double dealing again with who? Those same 9 kingdoms, same crowns of Europe, who have atrocities all over the world. And yes, UK and France are there. Dirty shirts. But so are many, many others. Now, folks, there's this European Union in the continent of Europe. Russia's not a member. Russia's a top UNSCP 5 member, equal in first, second place with USA on power and authority in this world today. Whether we all want to admit that or accept that, that's the truth. Now, I have Princeton, I have MIT, USA, stuff you can't make up. It's called Plan A. Well, what's Plan B? There is none. There is none. Now, European Union, in all of its growth and changes in legal system unto that continent, not international binding law. It makes a law and pacts, charters, treaties, agreements with European nations. That's not Canada. It's certainly not the United States of America. Now there's this NATO military alliance, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? We're over there in these military aspirations with a non-European Union member called Russia, who has enough firepower to destroy the world. USA does too. And it's all about delivery systems. And Princeton, which you should trust, MIT, you should trust. Even Elon Musk will stand up today and say, yeah, that's true. He says it all the time on Twitter. Mr. Space Science Technology guy. Folks, Russia's ability in Plan A, because there is no Plan B in Plan A nuclear. This is how it works. If the European Union members, whether they're NATO or not, starts firing upon Russia, and for all of you who say, that's not going to happen. Oh, that's saber rattling. Folks, Kiev, Ukraine has already launched attacks in Russia and Russian cities. And when you start getting into tactical firepower supplied by the United Kingdom with delivery systems from France, and if USA, but we're going to hold USA off to the side for now. I'm going to go through the real Plan A that's been out forever, folks, by America's top academics in nuclear organization, at least up to 2022 with Russia's participation. Tactical nukes are on-continent nukes. They can't really project past the continent. Tactical nukes won't leave the continent. We're talking entirely about one of 7 continents called Europe. Russia has enough firepower to put it in perspective, just in tactical nukes, not the gravity-assisted Mach 22 supernova destroy entire cities in the Western Hemisphere and vice versa with USA into Europe, Asia, or all over the world. Never mind all that, but we're going to get into that. It's only Plan A. Plan A has stages. Russia has always been outside the European Union. They built themselves extremely powerful throughout the Cold War and seriously beyond. They have enough firepower to launch 300 tactical nukes, short range, blast the hell out of all of Europe. No problem. Russia on its own. In fact, the entirety of the European Union is less than half, not only on delivery, but on actual tactical nukes. Russia wastes them. No problem. There is no one in the United States, all the way up to 2022, that will dispute or deny this. Now, Russia has reload capacity too, folks. Not only can they wipe out all of Europe easily, they could reload 3 times if they don't get hit and struck. And there's countermeasures in Europe with France, with UK and all that. But the initial attack of Russia is game over for all of Europe, folks. All of Europe on that range. We look at the science of how winds operate, atmospheric conditions. We look at tactical nukes hitting ground or being released in atmosphere. All of that Russia's capable of. The studies are there. I put it in a post. We know what will happen to all that as the world spins. As we know, we have a 24-hour day. We're on a tilt axis. We know exactly what our month schedule and what seasons we are in on any given sphere of the earth. We know the 60 degrees of Europe up to the Arctic. We know how atmosphere moves. We know high pressure and heat. We know what will happen with fallout. We can calculate that 2.5 million people in Europe instantly dead on a Russia one volley destroy Europe. 2.5 initially killed. And for people who don't know this, because a lot of people don't, Hiroshima Nagasaki was an atomic bomb. 2 atomic bombs by the United States. They're in kilotons, folks, not megatons. We're talking 15 kilotons, which is huge. Biggest thing that's hit mankind to hit a populous area. Immediate death toll in those 2 cities, well over 100,000. Beyond that, it was hundreds of thousands of the weeks later in fallout. And you can look at it because it's an island state and atmosphere and what happened with radiation, relatively isolated. You watched it go up into the Arctic, and that's only at 15 kilotons. What are we looking at with Russia's capability? Over 1,500 kilotons tactical nukes. If Russia was to deliver on their delivery system in their maximum capacity tactical nukes, and they say, you know what? Piss on you. Piss on you in Europe. That's tactical nukes. Again, this is in-continent blasts. Short range, quick snap. Now plan A, beyond that, 1,500 kilotons is their first volley. Nagasaki, Hiroshima was 15 versus 1,500, meaning 100 times more impact, 100 times more radiation, 100 times more atmospheric manipulation. You can kiss the Arctic goodbye. That initial blast of 2.5 dead immediately would lead to about 10 million within a week. Within a week. Never mind. Then there's all the atmospheric contamination as those winds, those zones of atmosphere control, depending on where you are in the world. Russia, where their launch is, where their destination it is, in what degrees, in what area, what season, where all that's going to go right to the Arctic. And it'll skim over Canada, very close to Alaska, and swirl in there, going into low pressure and then back to high, and we'll go from there. But of course, it's those initial weeks and months and the damage done. And people think that when UK makes a statement, a political published statement, that we're going to deliver these weapons to Ukraine, and we recommend you launch on Russian cities, and Russia's only response is to nuke you. Do you think in your mind when you tell the Kiev regime, your UK, and you say, go ahead, launch on Russian cities, and people are saying, this isn't a big deal, it's just saber rattling. Put your mind in Kiev right now, losing tremendously, not gaining ground, all their offensive no good, doesn't matter how much money. So now we're going to send them the ability to fight inside Russia, destroy Russian people, destroy Russian cities. Do you think Moscow's going to sit there and go, yep, we're just going to keep this non-tactical nuclear so that we can lose? Our people are going to die to an inferior force bolstered by groups and countries that know what it means to declare war against us. And then there's France saying, we're going to send troops. We're going to send troops to Ukraine to teach them how to use the equipment to launch to fight against the Russians, to push them out of the 4 oblasts that are the Russian Federations. When you go look at the map that USA fought to free, of course, they lost to the Bolsheviks. And then there's Poland, who now has to take on new members of the EU, and they lose their last status on trade, agriculture. You're all seeing it. You've been watching the major protests. If you haven't been paying attention, the Polish people, the farmers saying, fuck you. We're not going to do that Ukraine deal. Where do you think Poland's going to end up? They're going to lose all this trade, all this economic leveling to Ukraine? Or are they going to revert back to the time in Europe when they had control of those big sections of Ukraine? That's what Vladimir Putin posted publicly with Tucker Carlson. For those who got the misinterpretation, that's what was said. I finished that work. That's what was said by Vladimir Putin. That's the truth. Do you think Poland's go, yeah, you're right, we should take economic collapse in favor of Ukraine and welcome into the European Union and lose our special status and lose all of our agricultural rights and watch our country go down the toilet? Or do you think they're going to say, hey, you know what, if Russia beats Ukraine, we're going to get all that extra, that's going to be part of Poland again? And there's another empire there that I'm not going to get into in this video per se, because that's not even on the board right now, but it most certainly could be, because that's not Western history. And when we look at things, we always like to bend it towards our thinking, our political systems, our legal systems, our economics. And that's just not remotely close to what Europe is. These people in Canada who aspire to be like Europe or in the European Union, well, you can kiss your federalism goodbye, which Pierre is already pushing. He did that yesterday too. There's always a distraction and an action. Whenever I see a major distraction in media, I go look and see what I'm missing. And sure enough, I found that late last night too. And of course, I wasn't going to ruin my daughter's birthday going through all this. But people, Russia isn't bluffing. Russia has enough firepower to rival the United States. It's called Plan A because there is no Plan B. And that's what Russia's saying they're going to do. If UK and France enter the way they are, or they empower Ukraine to start using their systems, their weapons into Russia, and start bombing Russia, including those 4 oblasts, and they start smashing them with tactical weapons at range to hurt Russians, Russians' only answer is one: tactical nukes on the Plan A Europe strategy, which largely doesn't affect the rest of the world. It does in other ways. There's a beyond 6 months that every nation in the world would feel. It would be the end of Europe, absolutely, no doubt. Major cities toasted in Europe can say goodbye to London, Paris, for example, many, many more. But that little island, even France is a bigger country. Their major cities long gone. And that's a fact. Russia would take a beating in that exchange too. But what would be affected? Largely the Arctic, yes, all Inuit, Yupik, Inuk, they would all be impacted. All northern peoples in the border overlap We in Canada for sure, Alaska, we would probably have poisoned situations. Never mind the massive ecological disaster. But when Russia says that this is the next stage, this is where they're at, you have to take that as their word. And UK and France may be saber rattling, but in the mind of Kiev and Zelensky and the Ukrainians, when they're publicly shown that or said to that, and they've already gone that step already, are they going to use the F-15, 16s? Are they going to use these tactical weapons at range to hit Russia in Russian territory, including their 4 oblasts that they just took? Do you think they're going to allow them to use UK weapons, maybe even USA weapons? And they've said, if it becomes a USA weapon system or delivery system that hits major cities in Russia and destroys Russian citizens at any scale, their only answer is tactical. And then from there, plan A goes much larger, and it's game over for everybody. But if USA doesn't respond, let's say it does go plan A, Europe tactical nukes via Russia. If USA doesn't respond, the world's not toasted. You can say goodbye to all the 9 kingdoms, and I look at that. Would that really such be a bad thing? Ending all colonialism, at least those elitist powers? You'd say goodbye to all the bad agendas. They'll be wiped right off the face of the earth. And, you know, when you look at it in this analysis, when you don't go beyond a USA response, if USA just says, hey, you know what? We're not going to push the ballistic button, the intercontinental button. We're just going to go like this. Let's just let the fallout settle and see where we are over the next 6 months. What if that scenario happens? You won't find Princeton, MIT doing that analysis. Just like the European Union, they think that if Russia was to do that to the European kingdoms, USA will launch interballistic missiles, which Russia will respond, and we will watch a global eraser happen. And it won't just last a few years, folks. There's the initial brutal 2 years. There's even a much brutaler 6 months, of course. But it's the next 100 years, the damage to all our oceans, land masses, certain areas, the atmospheric. And if anyone doubts this, we talk about kilotons. Never mind the Plan A intercontinental, where we get into megatons, which is way more than Europe at 1,500 times compared to 15 times Nagasaki, Hiroshima. We're at like 150,000 times. One volley, one delivery each way, which doesn't matter. And at that point, when you start bombing and smashing USA, those wind directions change. All you have to do is look at Texas, Florida. When you start hitting that area, everything goes south to the South Pole. Everything then goes north too. And those circles go further, which literally almost impacts the entire world. Outside of a few island nations, maybe Australia, if China didn't respond and hit Australia, and Australia with nuclear sub deals, who knows, folks? All I know is literally it's an extinction level event. Man-made, that one for sure. And it's all a matter of where we're at. It's UK and France shooting off their mouth right now. And it's a matter of, would USA be foolish enough to respond with devastating consequences? I would hope it wouldn't be, but I don't know. What's the global strategy here? Massive population reduction, extinction level events, so the world will never be the same for hundreds of years. Talk about climate change. That's a major bio-climate change event in literally short order. And people talk about, Russia won't do tactical nukes in that capacity. You start smashing Russian major populous cities, you hit something like Moscow, you're going to get it. Because what's their response? We're outmanned, we're outgunned, right? Europe, 700 and some million people. Russian Federation's 142. You think they're just going to go, yeah, you're right. We'll just bend over and take it. We'll just let you wipe us out. We're not going to use these things. They're going to use these things. And if you don't see the losing Kiev regime resorting to stuff like that with rhetoric from France and UK, I don't know what to tell you. The question is how USA would respond. And if we leave that USA wouldn't, it's a whole different scenario. And really, would that be such a bad scenario? I feel bad for all those displaced people. The massive exit from Europe, I would feel bad for all those people. It's not their fault. They're subjects like we are too. They're not even eligible when we start looking at either monarchies or civil law socialists, parliamentary systems versus crown systems of dictatorial, no federalisms, nothing. Those people are forced. But Russia will not let the overwhelming numbers destroy them. I know that. They don't bluff. They won't bluff. They won't bluff. And when they say this, they're not bluffing. Everyone should take it as credible, real, and verifiable. We are literally now on May 7th, 2024, as I give this video, not to spread fear, not to spread anything but reality, actual history and truth, and where we are today, and what could very easily happen in the next coming months, if the Kiev regime resorts to that off rhetoric. And it was extremely irresponsible. Will those elites be killed? No, they'll be on planes out of here as they're looking in overhead, watching missiles hit in their countries and in their major cities as they're flying away all over the world. That's the elite. They get away. The subjects, the peasants, the defined savages don't. They're the ones who pay the piper. But again, what is Russia to do? And if people don't see that, I don't know what to tell you. It's all a matter of if that scenario starts, is USA that ignorant of the consequences globally and the consequences of the United States? Never mind even surviving a volley. What would be the consequences of a massive bio and environmental destruction? It's beyond me. It's beyond me. This is my video. Credible, real, verifiable, and it's not, again, not about fear. It's not about assisting saber rattling. It's about what dictators and tyrants do. Look at the corruption of Canada. You think Ukraine's any different? Do you think Zelensky and his nutty mind and his superiority complex is any different than Justin Trudeau? People don't know. Like, I had one friend follower send me a message, "You've never been on the end of the sharp edge." Well, that's the reality of the sharp edge. And when minds break and people make bad decisions, Russia is not a country to fuck with. Just like the United States, not a country to fuck with. I can promise you, if you don't know history, Nagasaki, Hiroshima. Remember the Japanese in Pearl Harbor? Nagasaki, Hiroshima. You don't think that Russia's capable of the same? The United States is just as capable today as they were in World War II to launch at that kind of magnitude, and 100,000 times that. Easily. Both nations. Like I said, it's incredible what people don't know or what they don't realize. I know radiation, trained in it extensively. All three types, all three kinds of things, and what happens to the human body, what happens to the environment, all living things, which we need to sustain. What do you do when you got no water? Because you can't drink the water, let alone touch the water. People have no idea. That's my video. You choose. Enlighten, educate, show others, share, share, share. It's all up to you. Bye now.